Hello everybody, it's Thursday the 11th of February and we're going to start with some handwriting, and today is appreciate. So grab your pencil and your paper. This might be the only handwriting you do today if you do your work online. So it's really good to just practice, even if it's only for 5 minutes. Oh look, I've spelled it wrong because I've been talking now. Even if it's only for 5 minutes, have a practice of your handwriting. It'll also help with your spelling as well. Appreciate. A-P-P-R-E-C-I-A-T-E. There's our handwriting for this morning. Okay, now for whole class reading. It's reading chapter 15 of the London Eye Mystery, which is called Infinity. And have a think, if something goes on forever, like infinity, why might the chapter be called this? Is it figuratively talking about the London Eye going on and on and on like a big bicycle wheel in the sky? Is it talking about maybe Ted's mind constantly thinking and constantly trying to think of a solution? Is that what is going on to infinity? Now in chapter 14, it ended with Kat and Ted thinking of 8 theories. And think what a theory is. It's kind of like an opinion or a guess or an explanation of what's happened. They're trying to find their own explanation of why Salim has disappeared. And they come with 8 of them. Ted's are a bit more creative, you could say. One of them is that Salim has spontaneously combusted, which basically means he's exploded and just burst into flames. Quite unlikely, because I think everyone on the pod would have been screaming, and as they're watching the London Eye, they would have seen loads of flames and fire in one of the pods. So quite unlikely. But some of them are quite realistic. Some of them are that actually, did he get off and get lost? That he was maybe in disguise, that he hid under someone else's clothes. So some of those could be possible. And what's nice in the book is that Kat and Ted are now starting to bond a bit. Kat is a lot older, and sometimes they fight and used to argue, but all of a sudden they're now starting to get along quite well because they're starting to think together what could have happened with Salim. And the last chapter ends on a bit of a cliffhanger because the phone rings. And obviously when someone's missing, if the phone rings, it's going to be news, maybe from the police, maybe from another news report. Something has happened. So now have a read of chapter 15 of the London Eye Mystery. For English today, we're going to be carrying writing our newspaper article. We're building up to this big write. Now, at the end of a newspaper report, it kind of goes into what's happening now. So it's told you in past tense everything that's been going on, why he's disappeared, who he is, where it is. And obviously, it's the next day. Usually, a newspaper want to report someone's disappearance as soon as possible. Have a think why they might do that. They want to say the next day, this person's gone missing. Why? Because people might see them. They can't have gone that far in the space of a day. So people will be still on the lookout. If a news report would say, 3 years ago, a boy went missing. That happens a lot if there's new evidence or there's new information. But by then, lots of people have forgot about it. While it's fresh in people's minds, they'll put it in the newspaper to get people thinking, and maybe on the TV if it's a big story. Now, as we're writing towards the end of the newspaper, it's now starting to go into the present tense and even the future tense. So the public or the reader knows what's happened, past tense. What is going on now? What are the police doing? What should we do, the public, if we see him? And then what is going to happen in the future? What are the police planning to do? If Salim doesn't appear in the next day, what are they going to do next? What are the next steps? So have a look at these. The police are currently searching, are asking, are urging. What tense do we call that? Are-ing or is-ing? Well, it's present, but the ing, ring any bells? It is the present progressive. Progressive because it is happening. It is getting done as we speak. So these are some good sentence starters for you to use. The police are currently searching the depths of the River Thames if they discover any evidence. So remember, the Thames is that river that runs through the centre of London, right past the London Eye. So are the police currently searching the Sparks household for maybe Salim's backpack, if there's any evidence there? Are they searching the River Thames for any of his belongings that have fell in? The police are asking for witnesses to come forward. A witness, again, remember what that means. Someone, an innocent person who saw something happen, who watched an event unfold. So maybe the police are asking for witnesses to come forward and tell them, did they see Salim? Did they see the strange man? Did they see anything at all? The police are urging the public to what? So urging, basically asking the public to look out for the young boy, to look out for the strange man. So this is all present progressive. Things that are happening now, things that the public kind of know the police are doing. Then, towards the end of your paragraph, you might go into future tense, which I have here, the bottom two. Will be. If we're saying we will do something, that modal verb is telling us it's future tense. So again, if Salim doesn't appear after this newspaper report's been written, what's going to happen in the future? They're not just going to leave it and forget about him. They're going to be doing next steps. The police will be conducting interviews, maybe interviews of people they think are suspicious, suspects who they want to question, who might be involved in it. So that's the next step. Once maybe witnesses have come forward and said, oh yeah, I saw a 6-foot man wearing a black coat and he had a tattoo across his face. Well, the police will be getting interviews with people who are 6 foot with a tattoo on their face who were in London at that time. That's the next step. Next one, we'll be updating the public. The police do this quite a lot. If it's a case where it's in the news and the public know about it, then the police, you might see it on TV, they stand in front of a police station with microphones and they give an update. We are currently interviewing a suspect who we believe is involved in the disappearance of Salim Khan. Things like that, the police update the public on. And will be updating future tense, something they will do. So your last paragraph, present progressive. What is happening now? What are the police doing? Use these for help. And then towards the end of your paragraph, you're going in time order. We've gone past, present progressive, now future. What's going to be happening? What are the police going to be doing? Okay, now we're going to move on to maths and take a look at this bar model here. We're carrying on with our units of measurement, and today is looking particularly at length. And this shows 5 miles is approximately equal to 8 kilometres. And there you can see it there. Now, if you look at kilometres, there's a little sliver at the end which overhangs, so it's not exact. 5 miles isn't exactly 8 kilometres, it's a bit less, but it's approximate. That's what we're going to work with today. And all your sheets from today from White Rose follow this rule. Now, once we know this bit of information, remember this wobbly equal sign means approximately, so not exact. If 5 miles is approximately 8 kilometres, then we can work other things out too. What's 40 miles approximately in kilometres? Well, what have I done? Before any of you say, oh, you've added 35. No, we always multiply or divide, don't we, if we're using a scale like this. What have we done to 5 to get to 40? We've multiplied it by 8. 5 times 8 is 40. So we've got to times that by 8. 8 8 are 64. So 40 miles is around 64 kilometres. Again, approximately. 5,000 miles. What have I done to 5 to get to 5,000? Again, I haven't added 4,995. I've multiplied by 1,000, haven't I? So 8 times 1,000 is 8,000 kilometres. So once we know this rule, which we're going to be working with today, all on your sheet and in your home learning pack. Then you can work out other scales using that rule of miles and kilometres. Right, let's have a look at this question together. If 5 miles is approximately 8 kilometres, like we've said, then 10 miles is approximately 13 kilometres. Here is Whitney's working out. And there she's nicely done. 5 add 5 is 10. So 8 add 5 is 13. So 10 miles is approximately 13 kilometres. Explain Whitney's mistake. Now, some of you might have spotted this already. I just talked about this. 10 miles. Whitney has said is around 13 kilometres. And she's gone, well, what have I done to 5 to get to 10? Well, if I add 5 to that, 5 add 5 is 10. Surely Whitney is right. What's her mistake? Then she just adds 5 to that too. And 8 add 5 is 13. So she must be correct. There's no doubt in it at all. Well, she's wrong. And why is she wrong? We just said this earlier. What actually have we done? Because we're talking kind of like a ratio, isn't it? We're talking a scale. We haven't added 5. What have we done to 5 to get to 10 miles? We never use add or take away when we're doing stuff like this. We're using these two to make it larger or smaller. So now what have we done to 5 to get to 10? Correct, we've multiplied it by 2. So what have we got to do to 18? Sorry, what we've got to do to 8? Multiply it by 2. We're going to double 5 to get 10. So we're going to double 8 to get 16. So the actual answer is 10 miles is approximately 16 kilometres and not 13 kilometres. But the question says, explain Whitney's mistake. I haven't answered that. I've solved it, but now it's over to you to explain what has she done wrong compared to what you should do instead. We're now going to do this question together, and it's a hard one. Lots of steps to it, lots of information, lots of numbers, but don't let it confuse you. Esther cycles 70 miles over 4 days. So immediately it tells us the answer. The total over 4 days is 70 miles. Now let's look what she did each day. On day 1, she cycles 14 miles. On day 2, she cycles 32 kilometres, different unit of measurement. On day 4, she cycles twice as far as she does on day 3. How far does she cycle on day 4? Give units with your answer. So, straight away, let's break this down. On day 1, I'm going to call it D1. She does 14 miles. We know she does 70 miles altogether, remember that. She's done 14 miles on day 1. On day 2, D2, she does 32 kilometres right. I don't like this now because we're switching units of measurement. We know she does 17 miles, so the answer's in miles, so we want to keep it like that. So they've thrown in this nasty kilometres, but luckily we know our conversion. Have a think, how am I going to change 32 kilometres into miles? Look at these. What could I do here? What I'm going to do is, I know my little chunks here, 5 miles is equivalent to 8 kilometres. So I'm going to see how many lots of 8 are in 32. 8, 16, 24, 32. 4. So there are 4 lots of 8 in 32 kilometres. Now I know that, I can times 4 by 5. Because there are 5 miles in every 8 kilometres. Okay, I'll explain that again. If you're thinking, hang on, sir, what are you doing there? 32 kilometres divided by 8. Because we know for every 8 kilometres is 5 miles. There are 4 lots of 8 in 32. Now, For every 8, there are 5 miles. So I can multiply my 4 lots of 8 kilometres, by 5 miles. And that will give me the amount of miles. 4 times 5 is 20. So 32 kilometres on day 2 is the same, or approximately the same, as 20 miles. So they've tried to trick us there with that 32 kilometres, changing the unit of measurement. But now we've done our working out, that's the same, approximately, to 20 miles. Right, so what are we on so far? Let's add it up. Day 1 and 2, she's done 34 miles so far. So far, so good. Hard question this. Now let's have a reread of it. On day 1, she cycles 14 miles. We've got that. On day 2, she cycles 32 kilometres, which is approximately 20 miles. We're good. So day 1 and 2 is 34 miles. Now, let's read the next piece of information. On day 4, she cycles twice as far as she does on day 3. How far does she cycle on day 4? How far's left? She's done 34 and she does 70 altogether. How many more miles has she got left to do on day 3 and day 4? Okay, she's got 36 miles left to do, because 36 at 34 equals 70. So for day 3 and day 4, she's got 36 miles left to do, because she's done day 1 and day 2, and we've already done that. Right, we're close to the finish line on this now. We've nearly solved this. We've only got day 3 and day 4 left. We can get rid of day 1 and 2, because we've worked that out. Day 4, she cycles twice as far as she does on day 3. Well, day 3 and day 4, she's got 36 miles to do. It says on day 4, she cycles twice as far. So say if this is how far she cycles, as a little bar model, she cycles twice as far on day 4. So she cycles 2 of them. Are you there yet? Are you thinking? 36 miles over day 3 and day 4. How many blocks have we got? 3. What can I do to 36 and those 3 blocks there? If she cycled this on day 3 and twice as far on day 4, what could I do to that 36? I hope you got that as well. We can divide it by 3. We can equally share that for each chunk. And that makes sense now. On day 3, she cycled 12 miles. And day 4, she cycled twice as far. And that is twice as far. So how many miles did she cycle on day 3? 12 miles. And how many miles did she cycle on day 4? 24 miles. And the question says, how far does she cycle on day 4? Give your answer with your units. Our answer is 24 miles. But because I'm a good mathematician, I'm going to double check my answer to make sure it's definitely correct. And let's do that. So day 1 was 14 miles. It says in the question. Day 2 is 32 kilometres, but we approximately changed that to 20 miles. Day 1, day 2. What did she do on day 3? 12. What did she do on day 4? 24. Now I can add all these up, her 4 days. What should they all equal if I'm correct? What was the total amount that she cycled? Let's see if it's right. 4 add 4 add 2. 1 add 2 add 1 add 2 and that 1. is 70. So that's correct. Day 1, 2, 3, and we worked out what day 4 was, equals 70 miles. Now complete the rest of your maths in your home learning booklet.